So, hello everyone, and welcome to Excited Nuclear channel. And today we are going to explore the instance versus class variable in Python. So, in Python, there are two type of variable, and uh, first is the instance variable, which is basically the object specific variables, and the other is the class variables, which is basically the variables that is going to be shared across all the object. Now, understanding this base difference is very important for mastering the OOPS, or you can say object oriented programming. So, without wasting any time, let us start with our first type of variable, and that is instance variable. So, for that, let us understand what basically instance variable are, and where it belongs, and what type of basically how it interact with the objects. So instance variable basically belong to a specific object. That means it is basic. These are basically specific to the certain object created, and each object has its own separate copy for these particular instances, right? And they are usually defined inside the init variable, or you can say init method, using the self you can say parameter. And let us explore this example with using the same example that we have been you can say saying, and that is the student class. So in this class, as you can see, we have two variables that is going to initialize every time whenever an object is created using the class student. So here the name and the marks are actually the instance variable. That means what is going to happen here is that S1 and S2 is going to have their own separate data, all right, and that is one thing that is not going to change, or and basically what is going to happen is S1 is not going to affect S2 and the vice versa. So here, what is going to happen? What is happening is whenever we are defining an object, these are the two statement that is going to uphold every time. And how this is basically defining our instance variable. So to check that, let us run this code first and see what it returns. So let me just increase the size. So as you can see, the instance was one have the name as Rahul, and instance two has name Anita, and both them have different marks, right? Now what is going to happen is there is no such thing like, okay, if I created a student S1, and his name is Rahul and his marks is 85. So there is no such thing like, okay, the next student created will be affected by the existing one. That means the Rahul student is going to affect the record of Anita, or in any way possible. So this is not what is going to happen. So that is the exact thing that satisfy this line of statement that we have put it here. That means the instance variable belong to a specific object, and each object has its own separate copy. And also I want to add one more thing to that, and that is these variables are independent uh, with respect to WRT as a short form, with respect to another object. So this is one thing that I have added myself, and of course these are the thing that separates the instance variable with the class variable. So we have actually seen the instance variable. Now it's time to see what are class variable. So the class variables are shared among all the objects of the class, and basically they are defined outside the init method, but they are defined inside the class. So how to basically picture that? So let us take the example and see what are the things that is going to basically satisfy this class variables. So if I take the same class as students, and let's create a school here, and of course if we are creating some records of student, and the school of this student must be same, right? So this is the kind of thing that we are going to see. Up until now, what we have seen is that okay, the name and the marks are defined inside the init, and these are specific to the object. But now we are going to create a separate variable inside the class, and basically this variable scope is lies within this class, and every object is going to have this variable accessible to it. That means whenever we are creating a student with name only, and if I say okay, I have created a student S1, so S1 will have a school name, you can say ABC school. And then if I create a student S2, Anita, so Anita and Rahul will have the common school name, and that is ABC school, and that is what it called as class variable. That means the class is the map that I have told you about, right? That means a class is the definition of a map that is used to architect object, right? Now, if a map has something common for every, you can say every new object, so of course it is going to be shared along all the objects. That means this becomes more like okay, what are the, you can say, common things about these students, if I have to say. So the common thing about this student right now is that they both belong to the same school for which we are creating this database. So like this, if you develop your intuition like this, you are going to you can say develop the thinking about this more clearly. So now to make things clear, to make things clear, what we are going to say is every student is going to have same school name for which we are creating this database for. But the student's properties details are going to be unique with respect to each other. So this is the line. I hope that makes that everything clears to you. That means every student is going to have some VSS school name for which we are creating this database. Now, but every student detail is going to be unique with respect to each other. So now to conclude this, the school name becomes the class variable defined outside init method, and basically the school name becomes the class variable defined outside the init method inside the class, and The properties or details about students became the, you can say what they are, instance variable and that are defined dynamically using, or maybe let's put that into a new line, init function. So of course, this is what is going to happen. Now I believe this should clear everything to you, that what are instance variable and what are class variable. Or there is also one thing to say, that where we are creating instance with detail name. So this is the thing that you should keep in mind, that okay, here what we are doing is we are creating an instance of class student with detail name. So S1 becomes us instance, and instance have some detail, and that detail is instance variable. Okay, and the common detail between these two separate student is, and that is defined inside the class, is what we call as class variables. Now, and important behavior about, you can say, these things, or let me just finish it with some things. So as you can see, here are some extra points that I have gathered for you. That means what are the some important behavior, and that means what happens if we change class variable using an object. That means what is going to happen if I'm trying to change the global variable or global detail or different objects outside of the class. Now, to see that, when we try to run this program, as you can see, our ABC school was the initial name that we have defined. Now here, what we have done is, we have said, okay, the S1 student belongs to XYZ school, but not the ABC school. So what happens here is that we actually change the school name for student S1 outside of the class. That means here what is happening is a new instance variable is getting created here, right? And that instance variable becomes the school, and the school is going to change. Now this is what is happening. As you can see, we get our ABC and XYZ school name. Now what is happening here? So S1 has now its own school variable that becomes an instance variable. That means a class variable is something that we have defined inside the class, right? And it cannot be dynamically used. But when we use a class variable and we dynamically assign value to it, so what is going to happen is the S1 becomes a S1 will have a new instance variable, and this new instance variable will be the school, or you can say the new detail that you have entered, that was previously a class variable. So this is what is happening here. So what happens here is that it does not modify the class variable itself. It basically creates, okay, you want to change the school, okay, you can do that, but I will not allow you changing the school for all the objects. You can do what, you can just simply take this student and change his data only. So this is what is happening here. Now, what is the correct way of modifying a class variable? So the correct way to modify a class variable is that Let's say we have initialized two students here, and if you want to modify the class name, or you can say the class, you can say variable school here. So how it can be done is we just have to use the class name, actual class name, and then use a dot operator, and then put the class variable name here, and then assign it to the new value. Now what is happening is, now before you can say before changing this class variable here, so you will get to see that, okay, this was previous. Okay, as you can see, before changing this class variable, we are actually getting this old school name, but after I have changed this class variable using this method, I all the details of the students get changed at one go. That means you have now changed the map of a, you can say, object, and that if you change the map, or you can say the blueprint, so what it is going to do is it will change the object itself, and the both objects is going to reflect the changes. Now, how Python searches for the variables? This is some critical topic that we have to see. So Python basically follows this type of order. So first it is going to basically create an instance, and then it is going to check for the class variable. First it is going to check for the instance variable and then class variable. Keep that in mind. So for that we have actually created a class test with a class variable x is equal to 10. And when we create a test t1 and we try to print the value of class variable, this will return us, of course, that value 10 here. Now, what if I do something like this? So what it is going to do is, now the T1, now the test variable, or you can say class variable X, now becomes the instance variable for object T1. And that means it will change the object detail for T1 but not for the class, and that can be seen here. Sorry, let me just clear my terminal. Sometimes it show this kind of issue. Now, as you can see, at first for T1, at first the X is the, you can say, the initialized value, and that is 10. But when we try to change this value using this type of operation, or you can say we are trying to change the class variable using the object itself, it creates a new instance variable and assign it value 20. Then we get the value 20 here. But when we try to print the, okay, what was the original class variable, then it returns us 10. Now this is something that every class shows. Now let us see a dangerous case where we have mutable class variable, and basically you should be careful about using list and dictionaries at class variables, because list and dictionaries are mutable data type. That means if you have watched my previous videos or foundation videos, you must be known that, okay, what are mutable data type? Mutable data type are some data type that can be changed itself. So why we should be careful about that? So for that, let's again take an example where items is equal to a list, and that is a class variable. And let's create two tests, that is T1 and T2. Now what we are doing is we are trying to append items to basically we are trying to append some, you can say, number to items. Now see what is going to happen. Now this should be something like, okay, t1 items, t1 dot item should have a list, and which that list should contain a number 1, but that it should not reflect this kind of changes. That was what an expected behavior is. But when we try to run this program, when we try to run this program, or again let me clear that. I think it was overheating. 5 minutes it will rest. Let's clear this terminal. Okay, let's delete this terminal and try to do that again. Okay, so as you can see, what is happening here is that when I try to append an item here one, the expected behavior is that okay, that even should be the only object that should reflect these changes. But what is happening is that T2 also have this kind of changes. And why is that? Because both the objects share the same list, and that becomes an unexpected behavior. Of course, if you intend to do that, you can just simply ignore these kind of things. But this is not what you can say, more like a general practice that you should follow. Now, the more main important part is when to use which variable. Now, this is where we basically combines theory with our practical experience. So, use instance variable when data is unique per object. As we have seen that, okay, if I am creating you can say student, then the student should have some unique property, because every student is a different you can say member of a class, right? And every member have some unique properties. So these unique properties are what we call instance variable. Now, what when to use class variable is that when you want to store the same information across all the variables, or you can say all the instances. So in that situation, use class variable. Like if you are creating a database, or you can say data engineering pipeline for a you can say school. So in that situation, what you are gonna do is you are gonna assign the same school name to every you can say student and even the staff too. So this kind of for this kind of situation, use a class variable. Now for the real life example, let us create an class employee where we are going to store the employee of the Google itself. Now here we created a company variable, and that company variable becomes Google, right? That means every employee that we are going to create, it is going to relate, or you can say it is going to have some information of company, and that information is going to be the Google. That means every employee is going to you can say belong to the Google company, right? Now every employee is going to have some you can say unique identifier too, like name or salary. Of course the name is not unique identifier, but for this case let us assume that. Now we created two employees, Rahul and Anita. Now Rahul and Anita both share the same company name, becomes a class variable, and they have different salaries, and the salary is what we call instance variable. So the company is same for all employees, but the salary is different. So that means the company is the class variable and the salary is the instance variable. So here is some practice exercises I will recommend you doing. So you can just you can say take the screenshot of these so that it can be helpful for you to practice. Now I hope you have taken the screenshot. Now let's move to the summary. So to summarize everything that we have learned, instance variable belong to the object, separate copy for each object, and class variables belongs to the class itself, and it is shared across all the objects. Now the key rule here is that object can override class variable itself, but to change it globally, you have to use the original class name. So with that note, I hope the instance class variable is clear to all of you. Now let's meet in our next video. And if you have any doubt about this video, you can just you can ping me a comment, because this is the most important part of what you can say how an object, or you can say the class is going to be defined or work. And with that, thank you all for watching this video.